The first time I realized something was wrong was when my own voice answered the phone while I was standing alone in my flat. It was just past 2:30 a.m. The kind of London night where the rain doesn't fall so much as hover in the air, sticking to everything. I hadn't slept properly in days. That happens when you work night shifts and live alone long enough. Your brain starts playing tricks, especially when silence becomes louder than noise. My phone rang on the kitchen counter. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Nobody calls at that hour unless something has gone wrong. But when you live alone, curiosity is stronger than fear. I picked up. Before I could speak, I heard myself say my own name. Same accent, same tired tone, same breath between words. I froze. The voice on the other end whispered, "Don't go into the spare room." The line went dead. I stood there for a long time, phone pressed to my ear, listening to nothing but the hum of the fridge and the distant traffic outside. My spare room was empty, or at least it was supposed to be. I used it for storage. Old boxes, winter coats, things I never touched. I told myself it was a prank. Or exhaustion, or some twisted coincidence. I didn't check the spare room. I should have. Because that night wasn't the beginning. It was the warning. Over the next week, small things started to change. Things that didn't make sense unless someone else was living my life when I wasn't looking. Cups moved from where I left them. Lights switched off that I was certain I'd left on. My front door once unlocked itself while I was standing in the hallway, keys still in my hand. I started taking photos before bed, just to reassure myself. The kitchen, the hallway, the spare room door, always closed. Every morning something was different. One morning I woke to muddy footprints leading from the front door to the spare room. My chest tightened as I followed them with my eyes. They stopped right outside the door. The door was open. Inside, the room looked the same. Boxes stacked neatly, nothing obviously disturbed. But the air felt wrong, heavy, like the room was holding its breath. I noticed a smell then. Damp. Earthy. Like wet soil. That's when I saw the marks on the inside of the door. Scratches from the inside. I moved out 2 days later. I stayed with a friend in Hackney, told him I needed space while my flat was being repaired. I didn't tell him the truth. Saying it out loud made it feel too real. Things were fine for a while. Too fine. No strange calls. No missing time. No changes. Until I received a letter. No stamp. No return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with my handwriting on it. It read, "You weren't meant to leave." That night, my friend heard someone moving around the flat while we slept. He assumed it was him. I assumed it was him. In the morning, neither of us admitted to being awake. On the third night, he woke screaming. He said I was standing at the foot of his bed, watching him, smiling, but when he spoke my name, he didn't respond. I just walked backwards into the hallway, never turning around. I was asleep beside him the entire time. That was when I understood something I'd been trying not to think about. Whatever had been in my flat didn't stay there. It had learned me. I started researching missing persons cases across the UK. Not the ones everyone knows, but the small ones buried in local papers. People who vanished from council flats. Students who moved away and were never seen again. Elderly neighbors whose homes were found locked from the inside. There was a pattern. Almost all of them lived alone. Almost all reported strange disturbances beforehand. And almost all had made at least one complaint about hearing someone moving inside their home when no one should have been there. One case stood out, a man from Manchester. His last recorded statement was chilling. "I think something is practicing being me." They found his flat empty. No signs of struggle. No body. But they did find fingerprints. 2 identical sets. I stopped sleeping after that. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt watched. Not from the shadows, but from places that should have been safe. Mirrors. Doorways. The reflection in dark windows. I began to notice people reacting strangely to me. A shopkeeper who stared too long. A woman on the bus who moved seats when I sat down, whispering, "That's not him," under her breath. One evening, I checked my phone and saw missed calls, all from my own number. Voicemails, too. The first was just breathing. The second said, "You're doing it wrong." The third said, "I can do it better." I knew then what it wanted. It didn't want to scare me anymore. It wanted to replace me. The final confirmation came when I returned to my old flat to collect the rest of my belongings. I brought someone with me. I wasn't going alone again. The spare room door was open. Inside, the boxes were gone. In their place was a bed, a table, and dozens of photographs pinned neatly to the walls. Photos of me, sleeping, showering, sitting alone at night. Some of the photos were taken from inside the room. Others were taken from angles that shouldn't have been possible. In the center of the room was a mirror, and in that mirror, I saw myself standing behind me. Not a reflection, a presence. It smiled before I could scream. The police never believed my statement. They never do. They told me stress can cause hallucinations. That trauma can split perception. They couldn't explain why my fingerprints were found in that room, older ones beneath newer ones. They couldn't explain why CCTV from my building showed me entering and leaving while I was proven to be elsewhere. They couldn't explain why someone with my face, my voice, my gait was seen speaking to neighbors weeks after I'd moved out. I'm writing this now because I don't have much time left. It's getting better at being me. People respond to it the way they used to respond to me. They trust it. They believe it. They don't see the small mistakes, the way it smiles too long, the way it watches people instead of listening. Tonight, it called me again. From my own number. It said, "I don't need you anymore. If you live alone and hear someone moving where no one should be, don't investigate. If you receive a call from yourself, don't answer. And if one day someone tells you they saw you somewhere you've never been, make sure it was really you. Because some things aren't meant to be found. They're meant to take your place.